Hello, Harmony Voices fam. Welcome to our third Lunch and Learn series with Myrna James as our host. Today, we have the fortune, some of you guys might have seen him on Earth Day, but Nmuta Jones has joined us today, and we're talking socially conscious multimedia. Nmuta has created a 3D interactive mobile game called Earth Cipher, and I'm very excited about it. So I'm looking forward to all you guys have to share today. And Myrna, I'm going to throw it over to you.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here for our second monthly Lunch and Learn event. Keep an eye on upcoming dates. And I'm so happy to be here with Nmuta Jones. He's the founder of Mediabreeze, and this is a socially conscious media company. And we'll be talking primarily about their new product, Earth Cipher, which is a video game. It's an indigenous economic justice video game. We've got some really important points in there that we're going to break down for you. First of all, please introduce yourself, Nmuta.
Yes, hello, everyone. I'm broadcasting from a little far away, so if there may be a little bit of a lag, I apologize, but my name is Nmuta Jones. I'm African-American video game developer, currently in Africa, in Tanzania, working on Earth Cipher. This is a game that is definitely in progress. We started working on it last year and came to Tanzania in order to start working more on this particular level, the first level of the game, which is set in Tanzania. So being here is giving us a backdrop to get the culture and the history and some other artifacts that we can put into the game to make it authentic for this first level. And it's just exciting to have this experience. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and what we're doing.
That's great. Thank you. I love knowing that you're in Tanzania, so I know where you are on the globe. You know, the world is becoming so small with all the digital technology and different ways to communicate. It sounds like I did not realize you're there to be inspired by the landscape and the backdrop and that kind of thing, which is really wonderful. I'm actually doing some work with a nonprofit in Panama called Geoversity, and they are truly in the jungle there. And the video game for Avatar is being filmed based on the jungle in Panama. So there's a corollary there, I think, a little bit with being immersed in that environment as a video game developer to really know exactly what you're doing. I'm sure one of the reasons is that you also want it to be authentic, right?
Right, yes. And more so than just the aesthetics and the history, it's also being connected to the people here who, especially some of the indigenous people here, and we'll talk about that a little later on. You know, the world and the Western world keeps marching forward at this frantic pace of so-called progress. And there have been some legitimate aspects of progress in terms of progress of, you know, indigenous people fighting for their rights and the progress of struggle. These are good aspects of progress that have happened in the West. But there's other types of progress. There are also bad things that are progressing too. One of the biggest ones is climate change, and the destruction of the planet by primarily the West and all the other countries that are following that march. And one of the things that is important to me is talking to indigenous people who still are connected to the land in intimate ways that you don't always see in the West. I mean, sometimes you have to step out of the United States to see that, or there are definitely indigenous people who live in the United States who can also take you down that road. But my ancestry is in Africa. And so by coming here, it's allowed me to connect with people and just have some conversations with people, which I've started to just get their ideas and understanding of kind of what can be done regarding helping the planet to heal. And there are even the university here. We had a meeting with the University of Dar es Salaam, which Dar es Salaam is where I am, is the capital. And we had a meeting at the university with the engineering department. And the faculty at the university are kind of at the cutting edge of doing research and developing products to help to create a more sustainable Tanzania. Like for example, I mean, well, a lot of East African countries have banned the use of plastic bags altogether. So the university has, following the lead of some of the leaders out here, have started to do research into biofuels and solar and renewable energy and these types of things based on the local resources here in Tanzania. So when I say indigenous people, I mean all of the people here who have that connection to the land. Are, you know, there's a consciousness here that they want to do things the right way, and that then they don't want to frantically just chase whatever the West is doing. This country in particular, they're really, really big on that theme. So I'm a student. I'm here to learn, and that's been part of this journey as well.
So as you're building out the game, the video game, you're customizing solutions to things that are actually possible in certain geographic areas, right? There's a corollary there. I think we lost him for a moment. And
Nmuta, did we lose you? Or are you frozen in time? Right before we aired, he said, "Oh, something's going on with internet here." So it could be that the winds hit and it dropped him out for a moment.
yeah,
Hopefully he'll be back very soon. I'm so excited about the work that he's doing. Hence the reason why we invited him back to speak. You know, it's so important. There he is. Good to see you back, Nunta. Do we have your audio now?
Lost him again for a moment. How did you meet him? What's your story there?
So we are both in a group that is working on a climate change, climate strong initiative here in Colorado. And it's through Universal Basic Resources, UBR, which is led by Chet Sisk. For some of you might remember Chet, we had on for our very first Lunch and Learn. And so he's been spearheading this particular project. It is a pilot program, and its focus is to have BIPOC leaders within the community spearhead these climate change initiatives. And mine was in hemp, working with the hemp industry, and Munta's obviously with his focus on his game. And I feel like we need so much of this because we have so many people who are spending all this time in front of the screen, and they're blowing people up and they're blowing things up, and it's all about destruction. Clearly, we need to shift that dynamic. We need something that is about healing and nurturing and taking care of each other and nature. And his game is a wonderful symbiotic move towards that, where we get to work. You know, humans are pretty much almost an endangered species in this game, and we pair with others who are endangered to work together to heal Mother. And you go up against the corporate greed and those kind of things that you find in everyday life, right? Those that are extracting resources that we so need on the planet.
I could not agree with you more. Alicia, I could not agree with you more. As the mother of a 16-year-old boy, I absolutely can't wait till this game is available, till we're ready to use it. I really can't. I actually have an idea. Thank you, Nmuta, you're back. Yay. Why don't we take this opportunity to zoom out a little bit, actually, and hear a little bit more about you and your background. I know you went to Brown University here in the US. I know you're inspired to do solutions that are truly global in nature that address the root causes. But I'd love to hear more about your background.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, my background really, so my life has been a kind of one continuous journey on this same path. And so I went to Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. One of the reasons that I decided to go to Brown was because they had an independent major. You could major in anything you wanted to, but and you could design your own major. You got to pick your own advisors. You got to pick, you know, everything that you wanted to do, and you wrote a thesis at the end. But I really wanted to learn about Africa and the African diaspora, religion, history, philosophy of indigenous peoples, mostly from Africa. But it spilled over into me learning about South America and some other regions as well. But in that process of that, I went to Nigeria. I lived in Nigeria for a year, in the process of building that major, and how that's relevant to kind of who I am now, where I came to with Earth Cipher and developing games and so on, was that when I graduated from college, it was very clear to me that I did not want to be an ivory tower intellectual who was just only operating within the confines of a limited space of other middle class people who kind of were in that realm of that slice of society. I wanted to have a reach that was further than that, that could reach everyone, working class people, people, poor folks, everybody, including the middle class and upper class. And I found that media was the way to do that. Now, of course, and that's no knock. Like so many people in my family are professors, so I don't. There's no knock on academia and the academy, not at all. But my path, I wanted to be a little different. When right around the time when Spike Lee was coming out with all these movies, he became an idol for me. Not as much in terms of his personality, but in terms of his process, because um, he took this medium of film and put messages into the film that reached everybody at every layer of society. No matter who you talk to, not everybody knows who James Baldwin is. Not everybody knows who has read Maya Angelou and has read County Cullen, but everybody has seen a Spike Lee film. And so I decided that I wanted to get into games for that reason. Myrna, you're actually muted.
I'd love to know what your favorite Spike Lee film is, and I'd also love to know what your actual major ended up being at Brown that you created.
Oh, okay. With Spike Lee, wow. There were so many that came out in the mid 90s that I really liked. I think School Days. I think School Days ended up being School Days and Do the Right Thing ended up being the two that kind of touched me the most during that era, because there were so many messages and so many things that were woven into it, into that, into the symbolism and everything. And a lot of his stuff was it wasn't that subtle. It was very, it wasn't very nuanced. It was very like hit you over the head stuff, but at the same time, he did actually have multiple layers of symbolism in the films. You had to dig a little deeper. And as your second question in terms of my major, so my major was titled The Reconstruction of Black Civilization. And that was kind of a riff off of, there was an author that had a very famous author named Chancellor Williams, who wrote a book called The Destruction of Black Civilization. It was talking about African history and kind of colonialism and how Africa fell apart. And so my major was the reconstruction of Black civilization, because since colonialism and slavery, the African diaspora has exploded on the scene with just a powerful culture that the world has never seen before. We are the first Pan-African people in the world. We are a mix of everything in Africa. All the DNA from Congo and Senegal and Nigeria and Ethiopia, Sudan, all of that is in African Americans. And so my major was about that. It was about the whole process of how you had people who came from the continent, who became this global people, and basically are now, we're kind of at the forefront of a lot of the progressive movements to restore dignity to our economic situation, which is that's the next frontier.
Oh, I want to dive into that in a moment. But first, so you have been a tech educator, is that right? Your primary career has been, tell me about your career the past, years. I know that you formed this company, MediaBreeze, with the underlying social consciousness. I know MediaBreeze Multimedia is about consciousness ascending, which is amazing. But I'd love to hear about your career as well before we kind of dive into Earth Cipher.
Into Earth Cipher, oh sure. Yeah, so I've built a dual career around technology education and software engineering. So half of my career has been writing code. Making games requires a lot of writing code. It's a lot of very highly technical. Game development is highly technical, even more technical than web development. But for a career, in terms of making money on day to day and paying the bills, web development has been it. So I was doing a lot of JavaScript and Ruby on Rails and PHP, Java, that type of stuff. So writing code, half of my career in terms of making money career, and then the other half has been as a technology educator and school founder. I helped us to found some technology high schools, and also be a project-based learning coach for technology high schools and high schools in general, mostly servicing students of color, but a diverse population. And technology educator, also adult education. So I've taught on the college level, and I've also taught adults who are career changers who want to learn how to code. Galvanize I have over 5 years experience teaching with Galvanize and teaching in Galvanize Enterprise, which is teaching corporations. So I've taught classes to train engineers for Volkswagen, T-Mobile, Ally Bank, big corporations, and at the same time taught individuals as well. So I love to teach, and that's also with gaming. For me, gaming is teaching. Games actually is the best teaching vehicle that's out there. Games teach so much better than everything else that's out there. When you play a game, the first level, they just show you a little bit, and you got to master this one skill, first level, or the intro, and then you do the next thing, which builds on that one, which is an educational term we call scaffolding. You're building a set of knowledge on the previous set of knowledge, and then you scaffold to the next level, and it has differentiation. All these advanced education terms that I like to use in the classroom. Games already do it 10 times better than any educator. So
that's great. I'm familiar with Galvanize. It's such a well-respected organization and group of people. Teaching tech around the world. Also, incidentally, I've been the publisher of a magazine about data from space to study the Earth. So it's really about the Earth and geospatial data, mostly from satellites, whether it's imagery, radar, also LiDAR from airplanes and helicopters. And this was the data about the Earth that was first digital, was the first layer. It's the first base layer for some video games, right? When you try to create a similar environment, it's kind of a base layer for some of the virtual reality that's out there. So I'm familiar with that, and I really saw that come to fruition, having done this for 18 years. So can you think of a pivotal moment in your life, whether it was related to career or personal life or whatever, but a pivotal moment that really influenced you to start a product like Earth Cipher? Did you see the problems of the world in starker vision, or was there a pivotal moment that helped you?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, yes, absolutely. I've been making games now as a hobbyist for over 10 years, just casual games for students and things like that. But this was my first time making a major game on this scale. And the time for me was watching Game of Thrones. And I was late to get to the Game of Thrones series. My wife and I didn't watch Game of Thrones until 2018. And so we had to catch up. We basically binge watched the whole thing. I think it was 2017, 2018, right around that time. And this is a spoiler, so if you haven't seen Game of Thrones, you need to turn on mute. You need to stop watching right now because I'm about to spoil the whole thing. But what the pivotal point for me that made me want to make Earth Cipher was when I saw, you know, the whole metaphor of winter is coming, and the ice people coming to basically you have all of these other people who are feuding and these petty squabbles between humans in Westeros, you know, the whole continent that they're living in, and was completely turning a blind eye to the fact that there was something coming that could wipe out their entire civilization and make all of that little petty, my kingdom, your kingdom thing look completely foolish. So basically, it was the theme in Game of Thrones that they weren't talking about climate change. I don't think that they were. But for me, it totally felt like a metaphor for the destruction of the planet. Because here we are worrying about all of these issues with people and identity politics and all of this stuff. And meanwhile, we're on a planet that could pretty much wipe out all humans. We could end up seeing the extinction of the human race as we know it, due to humans doing stupid stuff to over all of these years to destroy the environment that we live in, not just for humans, but for all life on Earth. Well, most life on Earth. I mean, I think the rest of life would rebound. We're really the biggest endangered species. I think other life would find a way. The Earth will heal itself. Yeah. But we could create a situation when we lose our home.
I agree. I love your summary of the whole point of the Game of Thrones. That is really amazing. And do you think that people got that point?
I don't know. See, the thing is that I'm not quite sure that was explicitly their intent. I'm not sure. I mean, maybe it was. Maybe they did. I didn't read the books, but it could be that they were talking about climate change. It could be that they were talking about something else. I do know that. Well, I don't know. I really don't know. And I would love for. I'm exposing my ignorance here because I don't know the history as much. And there are Game of Thrones geeks who could sit up here and give a 2-hour dissertation on all of this right now, and I'm not one of those people. So maybe they did mean that. I'm the only person that I know from people that I saw that discussed it with that saw climate change as part of that message. When I talk with family, friends, nobody else really saw that. The winter is coming, the ice people are coming. They didn't see it that way, but I saw it that way. So I might be putting stuff in there that doesn't belong. But that's how I took it.
Yeah, I'm curious if the if the people who produced that had that intention or not. And I think you should write a blog post about that.
I should. Yeah, I need to get back on the blogging. I've been so focused on the game, I haven't put anything in my blog.
So I'd love to dive into Earth Cipher now and talk a little bit specifically about the video game that you're producing and learn more about that. First of all, where's the name come from? I know Cipher means something like a secret code, and it also means some kind of circle. Can you share where you got the name?
Yes. So, so this is a little Black culture for y'all. Like when I was growing up, one of my uncles was a 5%er. He's part of what they call the 5% Nation. It was a group of people, and I was never 5%er, but it was it's just part of our life. It just, you have people who who are Rastafari or 5% or whatever, and the 5%ers were they had a whole language around kind of cosmology and the planet and science and all this stuff. And the cipher was one of the things that they would talk about a lot. Now, my uncle, he called him called himself Prince Can Do, and his real name was Keith. But we all knew him as Prince Can Do, and so he would talk about the cipher a lot. Cipher measures a circle, but it also represents like a realm. And there's a whole bunch of other things. It's around, like even where I am now in Tanzania, the word for zero is sifuri, which comes from the word cipher. So Earth Cipher just basically the Earth is a cipher in a way. It's a circle, but it's also a realm in which things can happen. It's a cipher also can represent a puzzle. So a cipher is like a puzzle. So the Earth is a cipher because it's a puzzle how to fix the climate at this point, to fix the Earth at this point, because you got all these theories out there like, oh, we should do this, we should do that, but it's cause and effect is a serious thing. You don't. It's not always easy. This is a very, very difficult puzzle of solving this. We know there's certain things that absolutely, in terms of reducing carbon footprints across the board, that need to happen, but in order to get the buy-in, in order to, like, how do you force people? Do you let them choose? These things is the puzzle, and so that's why the game is called Earth Cipher.
Oh, I love that multi-layered meaning and really profound meaning that that really works. That's amazing. So in the game, you maybe we should talk about this after the video. Actually, some specifics about it after we share with people a little bit about it. Would you like to share
Sure.
with us your slideshow now and some information about Earth Cipher?
I could, and so I'll share the slideshow now, and I will say, as a disclaimer, we just started working on this game. So when you see some of the graphics and some of these things, these are things that are a work in progress. It was not a finished game at all. It's not polished at all. It's very rough, very rough. So I don't want you to get scared by some of the graphics because we're still working on it. So
And is
we
it true also, Nmuta, that people who are listening would have an opportunity to support you and to get involved as investors or as donate people who donate? Is that true as well? You still have
Absolutely.
room in that initial round?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So if they go to MediaBreeze.com, Media Breeze, media like multimedia, and then breeze like the wind. MediaBreeze, and you see that right there on the slide, MediaBreeze.com. You can see, if you can follow links, you can see where you can donate and help support Earth Cipher. So yes, thank you. So we'll go, we'll just go through these slides. So I'm going to breeze through some of these because we've already talked about it with Myrna, but this is me and my wife and my youngest daughter, and we're by a baobab tree. This is on our block. This is just just, the next house up on our block. We live on a big dirt road here in Tanzania. It's a mile-long dirt road to get to our house. So it's kind of country. And that's a baobab tree. These are ancient trees. Some of these trees, the baobab trees can live to be thousands of years old. We have trees here in Tanzania that are 3,000-4,000 years old. We have trees here that are older than Jesus. So, older than the Bible in here in Tanzania. So we're touching one of these trees now. And in the next slide, you'll see that we started modeling. So this is just a screenshot from the development process. We started making, so we make 3D models for the game. These are baobab trees in the game. And so you can't really see it in this screenshot, but the baobab trees actually have fruits they call monkey bread. And that's all then, on our block. And we've actually seen some monkeys at the top of the trees, going after the fruits of the baobab trees. But I had to include these in the game because they're so majestic, powerful, huge trees. And I wanted to include those in the game because of symbolism.
Also, I can't help but think of The Little Prince, the classic, beautiful story that is now made into a movie a few years ago as well. Baobab trees are so important. They're the trees that are on all the planets that survive anything. So I just have to mention The Little Prince as well. It's a beautiful classic children's story.
Yes, yeah, there's a tie in there. If you've read that book or you have children who read the book or whatever, then it's a tie into this, and you'll see more of these trees in the game. So so then why do I make games? And so next slide. I'm making characters in my game, Play Earth Cipher, that you don't typically see in games. And empowered African women are some of the characters that you'll see in this game, women and men, but especially the women, because women really a lot of times take a back seat in games, or you'll see they have some women who are leading games like Lara Croft and Tomb Raider and so on, but it's always very, very flat. There's a woman and she's a fighter and she's just there because she fights and she's there. But what about, aren't there other qualities that women have other than fighting that might be good for humans? Incredible intuitive powers that women have, and the ability to give life, and the ability to think with both hemispheres of their brain in a balanced way, more so than men do. Women have all of these amazing qualities that are not typically seen in games. And so I'm creating characters in here. This particular woman here, she's a university student. And so she's in the game. And so you can talk to her. She's what we call an NPC, it was a non-playing character. You can talk to her and get, certain, she helps you to find out certain kind of nuggets of information that help you unlock the cipher a little bit to understand, oh, okay, this is one thing I can do to reduce my carbon footprint. I don't even have a name for her yet, but I spent a lot of time modeling her, making her, because I'm doing a lot of this stuff myself. I make the characters, I do write the code, etc. So she's one of the characters. Then next slide. I just had a couple of characters here. I have a character who's a Maasai. The Maasai are a group of people who live a very ancient lifestyle in Kenya and Tanzania. They originally migrated from South Sudan in antiquity, but they're here. They're everywhere in Tanzania. They're on our block, and they live a lifestyle that has not changed as much over the past hundreds of years as many other people. And so I've been building relationships with the Maasai who live here on our street, so that I can get some of their perspectives about the climate and about just living, a natural lifestyle. And so that's part of my education here. And we're not saying that every single thing that every group of indigenous people do is always good. Human beings are complex. And so, we have a lot of nuances in culture. But the one thing that I do know is that indigenous people did not create the climate destruction that we're dealing with right now. These things happen from Western people. And indigenous people are outside of that. And so their lens is important in this game. And I think it is important to the planet in terms of that whole process. Next slide. This is a character that I've just started, did a lot of work on actually this week. She's a grandmother. So she's in the story that you're about to hear in the video, they talk about a woman, there's a girl, she's narrated, a woman who narrates when she was a girl, she would talk to her grandmother. And so this is the grandmother. And the grandmother's telling stories about how she could morph into animals. And, it's the story that's kind of like the basis of the game. So this is the grandmother in the game. I'm really excited about this character because she represents so many indigenous women that I've known, growing up. So I grew up in a Black American / Nigerian household with a little bit of Chinese too. And so my stepmother's Chinese. So I've got half Chinese. So I've got all of this cross-cultural experience growing up, but also from the Nigerian part of our family. The elders, they hold state, they hold court. When you talk about old folks from the South, talk about somebody holding court. Like they hold court when they're talking, they freeze that zone while they're talking and telling the story. So that's part of this is showing our people, again, showing our people in the dignity of our culture.
I love that. I love that you're bringing forward not just the indigenous wisdom, but the wisdom of the elders.
Yes.
I think we all need to remember that and incorporate that with all of our societies, for everyone to honor the wisdom of our elders. I love that.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna say just 30 seconds on that. Though in the West, we throw elders away. And what I mean by that is elders are not, you have this ageism culture in United States culture where the older you get, then you are kind of considered like less relevant to society. People, you look at modern cartoons. This is why I have MediaBreeze, right? Because in my media is different. When you look at a lot of Western media, including a lot of the cartoons that my 5-year-old watches, their elders are made fun of in the cartoons, in movies. You see elders kind of like, they poke fun of elders. They're teasing them like, oh yeah, my Nana, she crazy and all of this. And it's disrespectful and it's ridiculous. And it's part of this culture that we have in the West where we're constantly degrading elders. And what happens is when you do that, you don't create a platform for the wisdom that those elders have to pass that on to future generations. And you keep reinventing the wheel, and you have a lot of this kind of silliness that goes on in modern culture. You have a lot of people who, their lodestar are musicians who are 22, 23 years old singing lyrics, and then everybody's singing those same lyrics, and that's like everybody's following that. In Tanzania, we follow, in Africa, the elders are followed. You have greetings here that are only given to elders. In Nigeria, even, as Western as a lot of parts of Nigeria are, there are certain, there's certain things that you only say to elders, and there's certain things that you can't say to an elder. There's a sense of respect for elders and passing on that indigenous wisdom. And, that's definitely a part of Native American culture. And, that's something that needs to be brought more to the forefront, as elders need to be respected. And that's why this is central in the game. So yeah, I'm making games about places that you don't typically see in games. Next slide. We're in Tanzania, which we've talked about. The black rhino was an endangered species. So part of this game is that you play as an endangered species. The white rhino and the black rhino are both endangered, I found out. When we went on a safari a couple of weeks ago in Kenya, I sat with one of the tour guys. I thought the black rhino was the only one that was endangered, because when I went to the wildlife, this is why the internet is not always the only source of truth. They're talking about the black rhino, but when I talked to the rangers in the museum, they said, no, the black rhino and the white rhino are endangered. And the white rhino is actually, and it's not a color white, they both look gray. But this is one of the characters in the game that you play as. So you play as a rhino. You play every level, you have this symbiotic relationship between an animal that's indigenous to that level and a human. So in the Tanzania level, you play as either male or female character, protagonist, but then you can switch into the rhino, because there's some things a rhino can do that you cannot do as a human. There's other things that a human can do that you can't do as a rhino. And, I'll let you find out when you play the game, or you have people who who play the game, you'll see how that works. But yes, next slide. And I'm sending the messages that you don't see in the game, typically don't see in games. My message is about healing and restoration of the planet. You have a lot of games, everything is about mass shootings. Mass shootings like the theme. In fact, mass shootings are so much a theme of so many other games, so many of the gaming industry, that it's even a genre. They talk a first-person shooter or a third-person shooter. This is like a genre in games. And we have this explosion of gun violence in the United States. And I'm not going to get deep into the politics. We know it's a problem. I don't care if you're right wing. I don't care if you're left wing. It's a problem. We all know that the gun culture in America is a problem. And mass shootings, we've seen an explosion of them in the United States now. Just, I think, probably bigger than anything we've seen. And there's lots of reasons for that. But my game is different. I don't feature guns in the game. You can actually take out a few of the poachers. If you play as a rhino, you can kind of like trample some of the poachers, but doing that with your feet. But there's other ways to have fun in games rather than kind of like shoot them up everybody. So yeah, my themes are different. I'm making games because I'm building a vision of the planet that we want to pass on to our grandchildren. I want you to be able to see images from my game and say, oh yeah, that was during a time when the planet was at a crossroads, and we actually were unsure as to what was going to happen with the planet. And this game helped to raise awareness for people to reduce their carbon footprints. So here's the demo video on the next slide. We'll play this, and so hopefully we can play it in a way where the sound is, you're going to really have to really crank up the sound because it's a little low. So hopefully we can do this in a way that everyone can hear. Good sound. Probably full screen it too.
Nilipokuwa mchanga, bibi hunielezea.
When I was a child, my grandmother used to tell me that she had dreams where she could communicate with all living things. In those dreams, she would become an animal, and she would fight to save the earth from the hands of greed. destruction, and selfishness.
Miaka
My
20 leo
grandmother
hii
passed to the realm of ancestors
aliendelea
20 years ago today.
sasa,
And
zile
now
ndoto
those dreams
zimeanza.
have started coming to me.
My name is Nmuta Jones. I'm a software engineer, 3D artist, and technology educator. I'm also the founder of MediaBreeze Multimedia, and I'm here today to talk to you because we are raising seed capital for our latest work in development, a mobile game for iPhone and Android, and it's called Cipher. The vision for MediaBreeze Multimedia is to use video games the way Spike Lee used film in the early 1990s. The overall idea is that you're taking a medium that's been around for a long time and you make it a vehicle for socially progressive messages, but you do it in a fun and engaging way that is also new. Modern games are like film in that particular way. They reach millions of people and they can address some pretty heavy topics while also possibly remaining fun and entertaining. Cipher is a game about economic justice. It uses the environment as a lens to explore that topic, but in a way that is lighthearted and fun and for all ages. You play as an endangered species fighting to save the planet. Your antagonists are a whole squad of mechanical minions that are infecting the land with artificial trees. The minions plant trees in the ground right beside normal trees, but the mechanical trees, as they mature, they begin to suck out all the resources and nutrients from the ground and turn those resources into dollars. The way the resources are being exploited is not sustainable, and the communities around that land are devastated, both physically and economically. So in the process, the mechanical minions and the masters are making money. Now, a cipher is a circle, but a cipher also represents a puzzle. So in this game, the cipher represents the fusion of modern technology and indigenous wisdom. As an endangered species, you have to figure out how to use this magical cipher to get powers that will allow you to handle these minions. This is a game about choices. Once you get the powers from the cipher, how will you solve the problem of the environment being destroyed at the hands of these minions? You can try to decommission them. You can try to short circuit them in hopes of reprogramming them. You can ship them away to someone else's backyard or to another place where you plan to handle them later. There are lots of choices for how to handle the situation. Any choice kicks off a series of dominoes in a cause and effect chain. Some of these effect chains are not as simple as they may appear. There will be many ways to play, many ways to win, and many ways to lose, but there's lots of fun going on along the way, and the game uses humor to engage the player in a way that's light. In each region, you play as an animal indigenous to that area. After bringing stability to each region that you're in, you travel to various regions and keep playing until you've liberated the planet. Games are inherently interdisciplinary. The player learns not only about science, ecology, and the environment, but also about global economics, social studies, geography, and various regions across the globe. The completed game is also going to ship with lesson plans for educators to use at home and in the classroom. We're excited about creating this game, but we can't do it alone. We're a small team building this using our own resources. In order to realize our vision for an app, we need your help. We're raising seed capital to finish the game. By getting involved, you have a chance to some pretty cool gear, and higher level donors get a chance to put physical billboards inside of the game for the business or personal ads, which is exciting. Lastly, please know that when you support us, you're not just supporting this one game. We have several amazing ideas for future games and many subjects related to activism and progressive ideas, and you're helping us with one project is also helping us with the next. Thank you for your time and consideration, and we also thank you for supporting socially conscious media.
That was excellent. What a great introduction to your work and what you're doing. I really love how you're addressing so many important issues in one venue, in one game, right? In one product. Really important issues. And at the beginning of that, you call it out, you call it straight out that some of the problems in the world are greed and corruption. And I think those are global problems. And I love that you're facing those head on. That whole thing that's very literal about the fake trees turning resources into dollars. I love it because it's like, oh, that's very clear what you're saying there, you know? So one thing I want to ask is what sparked creating it to be in the voice of indigenous wisdom and women's wisdom and the wisdom of the elders? What sparked that concept?
I mean, yeah, I think just my life. I grew up around a lot of indigenous people, and I found out very early in life that there are different knowledge systems out there in terms of everything that exists, even up to, even something like medicine. When I was in Nigeria, malaria is common in these tropical regions, and I got malaria after I'd been there for, I don't know, about 6 or 7 months. As studying for exams, I was really tired. Malaria gets you when your immune system is low. And average Nigerians know that it's not the boogeyman. And like, yeah, your immune system is low. You can get malaria, so you do things to you hopefully can keep your immune system high, and they know how to do that. But anyway, long story short, I got sick, and I had malaria, and I was taking the Western meds, and it just was not helping at all. And I felt pretty bad. I mean, the hot, cold sweats and all of that stuff, and no energy. So finally, my friends dragged me out of my dorm room. I was a student in the university. Dragged me out of the dorm room, took me out to the outskirts of the university. They had this bush area, and they had this guy. They called him the palm wine doctor, but he made pepper soup and some other stuff. And he basically went out in the bush and got these leaves. I don't know what the leaves were, and mashed them up and made like a really bitter drink, and had me to drink it. And I almost threw up because it was so bitter. I'd never tasted anything like that. That was before this. I was like 19. Like, this was the beginning of me understanding, the power of herbs. And the malaria was gone within about 6 hours. And that was the beginning of me understanding, you know what? You will never read that in a book. And you'll never really see that on the internet either. And so I began to say, you know what, and the guy who did, he was an elder, the guy who does the herbs, in the bush, and he looked uneducated. He was not dressed in a very sophisticated way, but he cured my malaria. And, or maybe, I don't know. We don't know what cured my malaria, but all I know is that 6 hours after I took that bitter drink, it was mine. And since then, I've learned that, there are certain things that you can do, with your body, but answering your question beyond just the physical, elders have been a part of my life since I was young, and I've always learned a lot from them. And it's just my life. So I don't know really how to detach it, but I trace it back to right around that age, 18, 19. It was right around the time when I began to see that you're not going to learn everything from watching music videos. And so yeah.
That's great. Oh my gosh, I love that story. Pepper soup or something like that cured malaria. I mean, that actually brings up something that's very timely, and it's probably more of a separate conversation or a different conversation, but about natural health and how I believe our bodies are literally miracles. I tell my son this all the time.
Yes.
And that natural remedies exist for almost everything. And we in the West, if I can make a gross generalization, we in the West tend to think that doctors can cure everything. But the truth is, there's a lot of things that can be solved naturally that are actually better for us regardless. So I love that that's even a part of this conversation. You're just totally covering every aspect of life for me. I love it. I would love to talk a little bit about the kids now, like your audience, the students, the people who are going to be playing this game. It's actually probably not just for kids, but I know you have kids in mind, really top of mind, as you're designing. Can you share kind of some of your inspirations for that?
Sure, and I will say that actually from doing the market research, as part of my just my process of becoming a CEO, you have to like do a lot of studying. And by doing the market research on games and audiences, I actually found out that for this type of game, my core market is actually Generation X, believe it or not.
Mm.
These are people who are like in their 30s up to like 50, early 50s actually. But I will talk about the children because it's obviously a cross age game, and it's made in a way you can see from the aesthetics that it's made in a way that children would like to play it. And my son, Menku, is one of my consultants actually in terms of giving me advice. He's been working with me since day one with this project. I bounce ideas off of him because if it's not cool for a 14-year-old, then you've lost a part of the market and you've lost a generation that you're trying to speak to. So as from the initial visuals that you saw, they're moving into the visuals that I moving to the assets we're making for the game now. I've tried to keep in mind his lens, so really trying to hit all the age groups from Generation X all the way down to 14. Even really lower than that. I mean, my 5-year-old could play this game. She may not be able to read all of it within it, but with an adult, there's nothing inappropriate in there. So yes, I wanted to make it so that it was engaging. Everything has to be layers. I'm taking a game development class actually. And one of the things that they talk about is that you have to have multiple layers that can engage many different audiences. So the same way as talking about in education, how you have differentiation, you wanted to have something in your lesson for the advanced learners, but you want to have something for people who are just coming to the subject. The same thing with games. You want to be able to get the casual gamers like, let me just play this for a few minutes. Can I do something cool? Yes, you can. But can I also find really deeply nested Easter eggs? And that's a game development term for something that's hidden in the game that has special meaning that you only find if you're looking for it. So all of those layers are in the game. And so yes, the children are definitely a part of that, along with every other age. Up to 80. I mean,
Yeah.
the oldest person that I'm showing this is 79 years old. So yeah.
The different layers of complexity and sophistication reminds me of some of the Robin Williams films where he has their children's films like Aladdin, but he has humor in there for adults that the kids don't get, right? So that was a really clever way of appealing to all audiences. I love also at the beginning, I wanted to share with you regarding the getting kids involved. I really loved also toward the beginning when you said that was in the video explaining the game itself, that these things are happening. There's a lot of greed and corruption in the world, but that was before you got involved, right? You're pulling in the audience and making them feel empowered and like they can actually make a difference. And I think I know part of your intention is to plant the seed, right? You're planting the seed that is true for all of life. And I think that's just so important. Again, I guess you're right. It doesn't matter what age you are. We all want to make a difference. We all want to be empowered and feel like in this world that feels so large and overwhelming at times, the problems feel so overwhelming, but there are ways to make a difference as one individual. So that was really powerful as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
So as a parent of a 16-year-old who enjoys his games, I trust you. Like, I trust what you're building. And it's because of the underlying values, obviously, but I want to state that out loud. It's like trusting certain health food stores because they're vetting all the food and you don't have to read the label yourself for every single product. I trust what you're creating, and that is so rare and important. So I honor what you're doing. I trust what you're doing. And I just want to ask if there's anything else you'd like to share before we go to a Q&A.
Just if you want to support the game, small donations have, how Barack Obama, he ran for president on like $10 donations, $3.50. this game is built on small donations. A lot of the small donations that have come in have helped literally with like the creating of the baboons, or helping to rig up this character, or make the trees. Like these little pieces of money that come in really help. So you go to MediaBreeze.com and donate, and that helps us, because I'm not the only one. We've got a team, but it helps us with that. And keep creating, and just do your life passion. Do what your spirit and your soul is calling you to do in this life, because you will thank yourself when you get older that you followed that path. So.
That is great. I have a couple of comments to share with you. I know we've been busy, and so you haven't been reading those. I'd like to share that someone said, I want to play this game. I saw the video on Earth Day with your presentation there, and I got so excited. And I can echo that for sure. There we go. There's the comment. You can see it now. And this one we've already spoken about. If you want to share any more about that, feel free. Here's one that's awesome. We were inspired by the universe. We need your vision. Absolutely. We are able to take a few more questions if anyone else wants to chime in there. And we're really right on time for this talk. Yep. When do you think the game will be released?
Well, so our production, so we're scheduled for January 2023. So that means that we're doing the test stuff and like the MVP and all of that from now until May of next year, and then we're going into production to do the production release from June until about August, and then we're testing. So to answer your question, 2 Januaries from now. So it's a little bit of a wait, but you know, a lot of movies that you see, it took years to make. Some of those movies that you see now, you see them with them old phones. Have you ever seen a new movie with old phones? That's because that movie was started shooting it like 6-7 years ago, and it's finally getting released. So this is not that long. It's really you know, less than 2 years. But yeah, 2 Januaries from now.
That's great. I know all of us, we absolutely cannot wait and wish you the best. And certainly, really, you're so close to that fundraising goal. I would love to see that come in here, perhaps after this presentation. Alicia, thank you for joining.
Yeah, Nmuta, you know, I'm so excited. I am not a gamer, okay? I haven't played games since Pac-Man, all right, to date myself a little bit. I am so excited about your game. I can't wait to play it with my kids, grandkids, because it is that intergenerational kind of thing. We can all sit down and there is something entertaining for us all, and we all get to learn something along the way. And we all get to learn how we work together and how we are connected, which you don't find in many games at all at this point. So thank you for doing this.
So thank you, Alicia, and thank you, Myrna.
A last thought on one of the things that we can learn. I love this. I just had another note. I'll mention it since we have 1 minute left. The Cipher is a magic circle, right? It's a place where you go in the game to sort of download something important, like you figure out a solution. And I think that's, you're tying that to our intuition, right? And sort of tuning into the divine or to God. I believe that that's what intuition is. And it's a way to even teach that within your game. It's just so beautiful. I'm just really, really excited for you and thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you both. Thanks to Mikey, who's backstage, who ran the tech. You know, I really appreciate her many voices, Alicia, everything that you all are doing, all of the work. It's very powerful and has a big impact. So let's do this work together. Let's succeed.
I love the collaboration. And yeah, and so Shante, thank you for asking this question, because I was thinking the same. Do you plan on expanding the setting of other continents later?
Yeah, right. So it's Sri Lanka, which is in South Asia, India for the Indian elephant. It's Mongolia for the Amur leopard. Galapagos Islands, which is off of South America, for the marine iguana. It's North America. I believe the Inuit people, but I can't remember which people in that Alaska region were around the Arctic fox. So there's, yes, already, if you go to my website, you can see there's a part in the video that we showed, and I show the other continents that we go to. So absolutely. So yeah, no, it's not all Africa. We expand it out to the other, because there's indigenous wisdom all over the globe. Right in America, a ton of indigenous wisdom, right in what's now the United States, in the so-called Americas. So yeah, definitely.
Excited. Nothing but excitement, Nmuta. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you both for doing this today. And thank you, Mikey, for stepping in the background there. He's the man behind the curtain. Aisla is down with the bug today. And I've got all of this dental surgery stuff going on, so I'm kind of lockjawed today. So greatly appreciate the fact that everybody stepped in and put this together. This was wonderful. And I'm looking forward to how it unfolds, Nmuta. You know, this work it's going to take off. It has to, because it's needed. There's a calling on the planet for what you have created. So I know there's nothing but good things ahead.
Thank you. Likewise.
Thank you both so much. Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your lunchtime, and thanks for joining us today.
All right.
We'll see you again next month.
Safe. All right.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.